completion.
Sun,
So
sand, and
there are
water.
things that you give up.
I have a theory. I have a theory that as you develop as a channeler, or even as we develop as a species, that will become, rather than carbon-based, will become crystal-based.
Yes.
And so I felt that I have become more crystal-based in my makeup. So as a crystal, I constantly need clearing, charging, energizing, grounding. And so just like that, I had to do that for myself over the years, constantly keep myself grounded, clear, and charged, and energized, like a crystal would be. And so I'm kind of like a human crystal, because like a crystal radio, I receive frequencies. Yeah.
Thinking back, you started sometime in the 80s or thereabouts. What is your general impression of the number of people doing channeling? You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, it was really pretty big. Now it's not as publicly prominent, but what's your impression of the number of people doing it?
Well, in my day, yes, there were many people in the Philadelphia area who made their beginnings in Philly and then went on. Well, let me try to think. Emmanuel was a woman. There was a woman who channeled, and then she named Emmanuel, and of course me. And then there was a lot of local channelers. In fact, so much so that a friend of mine, Bill Tomaszewski, founded the New Hope Channeler Support Group, which then became the New Hope Metaphysical Society. So there were a lot of channelers that came out of the woodwork who I never heard of from just the Bucks County area who would meet in New Hope to talk about their channeling experiences. Well, there was a guy named Doug Wing, who was an actor actually in Philadelphia, who channeled. Evelyn Isidore was a famous teacher of many other channelers in the Bucks, Montgomery County area. Who else? I can't remember anymore. But so there were a lot of people, and then of course the people who came to me for healing or readings or lectures often started to channel themselves because they were activated, in some fashion. So we had many of my students channel. In fact, we had what was called channeling forums, where we allowed people, my students, to come up like here and channel. And that's why Bill started the Channeling Support Group, because it was sort of based loosely on my channeling forums at the time, because he went to my channeling forums, and Bill started channeling a little bit when he did Reiki. He practiced the healing art of Reiki, and he would get insights when he would do the Reiki on clients, which I can say I did too. Your intuitive abilities kind of sharpen when you're working with spiritual frequencies, such like Reiki and the like. So things get activated in your brain. Your brain-mind system comes open to these different frequencies, and you start getting insights, and you get more psychic in general. I'm trying to make it very simple, but it's a process. So I don't know, where else can I talk about the channeling? I did see a UFO once from the New Hope Metaphysical Society meeting. I was coming home with John and a couple other people in a car, and again I saw this light in the sky, and then it jumped from one side of the window to the other side of the car. The light, same light. I went, huh? And then it jumped back. And I went, hey guys, watch this. And then all of a sudden the light turned into a string of lights, like a string of pearls. And then all of a sudden I saw this saucer shape, of the UFO, where the lights that were a string of pearls became the windows at the bottom of the UFO.
Wow.
And this was kind of far though. It was like far away, but enough that we saw the outline, and everybody saw it when I saw it. They went, oh my God. And John, I think you were driving.
Yeah, I could feel that the energy coming from that. And I was basically hearing, don't look, just keep your eyes on it. So I wanted to make sure I didn't run off the road.
Right.
And I saw it briefly, and I said, yeah, okay, until one of the people in the car was a psychiatrist, Gary Schumberg, and he said, oh my God, it's a ship. And that certified for me that this is what I saw briefly, but I had to stay steady because it was dark. It was on
I think it was
309,
the turnpike or
really
309.
swollen and dangerous road. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so that was unexpected, and what was interesting was that it was translucent or transparent. You could see the trees behind it as it was hovering in front of a bunch of trees. And then you also realized that it noticed us. It could tell we were looking at it, because actually when we finally all decided it was there, and we're getting all excited, it moved. It decided to leave and disappear just like that. And so that was the one sighting I had. Yeah.
Is this great white brotherhood, the white light you call from the great brotherhood?
Yeah.
Did they ever mention that they were from Arcturus?
Well, they may have members from Arcturus, you know, but there's probably other federations or societies from all the different constellations. From what I've read, you know, there are like the Galactic Federation, which is the confederacy of all the planets in a certain, you know, system that have been working together now for thousands of years, who are very advanced and are waiting for the Earth actually to advance to a point where they can actually, I guess, contact and become member of the Federation, is what I've read. Where I read that, I think was Lissa Royale. There's a lot of, there's channelers I can give you who have channeled ETs, and I think I have that list here. And so the person I read who, you know, influenced me was Lissa Royale. Lissa Royale Holt, actually, is what her name is now. And she's amazing. She wrote The Prism of Lyra, which gives you like the whole historical overview of all the ET civilizations that have been here on the planet Earth and have, you know, mixed and matched and mated with the original humanoids here. Yes, Sean?
Yeah, for what it's worth, somewhere in the Edgar Casey meetings, it's mentioned that when we pass, leave our bodies, we necessarily go to Arcturus as a sort of a processing center.
Well, I think, you know, Arcturus is related to Arthur, and it's the Great Bear. It's from, it signifies the North, and there's been a great suppression, especially of the Scandinavian peoples, that there had been a once great civilization there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'll have to tell you, I've had clients when I was doing readings who my guide would say, your planet of origin comes from the constellation, is in the constellation Arcturus. So, you know, people were told they were Arcturians originally, you know, and they often felt like they didn't fit in to our society. They felt a little alien. And so that's why, because their origins were not of the Earth plane, which is very true of many people, you know, that we are a mixture, an ET mixture, a hybrid, with different ET genetics. And that's really what we are, actually. And yes, John?
I just wanted to say that there are some entities that don't exist in any physical reality that we can identify or even imagine. They're just energy, like the solar logos.
The holy
I had channeled a group called the Pleiadians, I can't remember, a couple years ago.
Colonians?
And they said, in our understanding of reality, the Earth plane doesn't exist. We had to kind of imagine that the Earth existed for us to get a connection. So there's realities that don't have any source or space or time.
Or bearing on our dimension. Yeah, so I'm going to hand these out in case anybody would be interested in people who channel ETs consistently for many, many years. Like Daryl Anka was a channel of the entity Bashar. He's still here, he's still channeling. And then there's Lissa Royale, who channels Sasha from the Pleiades. There's my friend Virginia O'Hara, she's a contactee, she channels Penelope. There's Barbara Marciniak, who channeled the Pleiadians. And the Bringers of the Dawn was a famous book in the 80s from her channeling. There's also Sheldon Neidel, of course, who's an ET contactee and channels a variety of ET intelligences and has that, I forget what it's called, you know it.
It's got the Galactic Neighbors is one of his books.
Yeah.
It describes 22 different star nations.
Yeah, he's amazing. Absolutely amazing. They're all amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then there's a newer guy named Rob Gauthier, who channels also a variety of ET intelligences. And he calls himself the ET Whisperer. And so, you know, so I'm going to hand these out for people who really feel the need or urge to have this information, so they can look them up themselves. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, where in that mix of people and stuff would you put Jane Roberts?
Jane Roberts was the seminal channel, I think, for many people, because I don't know where Seth comes from, but that was her contact, her
Right,
guide.
yeah, I've read all this stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what dimension he originates from, but he's a great galactic teacher, I would call him. He teaches, I'd say, for all people, for all time, universal truths and understandings about the nature of reality, the nature of, you know, energy, the nature of consciousness. So I guess he's just this great teacher. And even Daniel said, you know, he's a great teacher.
There are some entities like Daniel and Seth. Seth will operate in a probable Earths in space. Other entities will study the probable Earths in time, they're really separate, and become where you got those probabilities.
But Seth, you know, I would recommend if you can handle Seth.
Yeah, I never hear anything about Seth puts in group meetings or anything like that. It's like, somehow everybody forgot about that. Excuse me.
There's Seth Work International website.
There's definitely Seth groups still existing.
It seems like
Seth Work
Hickson,
International.
assuming you're together, what is the connection?
I don't know. I forgot about everything. That's the point.
I can make some comments. I'll bring some next week. Next 2 weeks.
It's a combined site.
Well, maybe they decide to come together. I don't know.
People think come together, but
Yeah, right. Come together. Yeah, you had a question.
If somebody wants to build a channel, it will be better if they start to fill in the inner side first, and after get side protection for going in.
Yeah, I would say that you want to make sure you're mentally, emotionally, and physically up for the challenge, that you're pretty stable, you're pretty healthy on all levels, and that you learn psychic protection techniques, you learn, you know, who your guides are, then accordingly. You can, you know, once you're ready to connect, I would say connect, well, with your higher self, which you can do through meditation. Your higher self is like that connecting link between you and your guides and your spiritual family, as I understand it. I mean, there is people who say, well, your higher self is your Christ itself, it's your higher, you know, whatever. But I say it's kind of a connecting link to the higher dimensional beings and your higher aspects of yourself, the multidimensional self. So connecting to your higher self is a good idea. So doing any kind of meditation on the higher self is good. And then once you establish that, connecting with your guides, you know, your spirit guides, your guardian angel, is very easy to connect to because it's basically through the heart. And so these are the steps that I have taken, you know, over the years to do that. So that's what I'd recommend. There's lots of people who've written books on how to channel too. Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer were the early teachers. They channeled entities called Orin and Daben. And they're still around too. They might be in their 70s now, but they were back in the 80s also. And they wrote Opening to Channel. And that was the book I used to explore opening to channel and teaching other people how to channel. You know, how to do that after a while. So whatever you channel, it's best just to know that you want to practice good spiritual hygiene, in that you surround yourself in the highest vibration of Christ consciousness, with white light, and that, you know, ask for protection, and from the angels, from your guides, and then you're kind of set, you know, you set a certain frequency and place for you to then hook into. So these other beings can't hook into you, so to speak.
I learned something like, first we need to feeling ourselves before we get the higher self. You know, because some people can be on balance without feeling the inner self, try to connect the higher self.
Yeah, a lot of people have a skill and ability, but don't have emotional stability. And so I wouldn't suggest they channel or do anything psychic until they're emotionally clear, that they know who they are, you know, what their values are, what their beliefs are, you know. But that also is part of the spiritual journey too, isn't it? So it's a mixed bag. You're not going to be perfect about it, but you've got to start somewhere, that's all, you know, with the good intentions. Yeah.
Rank is something that a friend of mine told me a long time ago. I might have mentioned it to the group earlier on. Back in the 70s, I knew this guy named Elliot. And when he was like 8 or 9 years old, he used to know this girl, they lived in the neighborhood, it was in this like cul-de-sac. There's a girl there that he went to school with, and she always kept saying that she was from somewhere else. She was from somewhere else, and she kind of made this little hint. And one day he was sitting out on the roof of his house. He had this little thing outside his, he lived on, his bedroom was on the second story. sit outside on the roof. And he was looking up and he saw this flash of this pulsing light. And he was just staring at it. And then he realized this thing's close. And it seemed to be over the house where this girl lived. So he went down, this was like about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he went over to the house. Everything was dark, but he saw where the living room was. He went over to the window and he was able to, all the blinds were drawn. And he was able to see through. The girl and her family and a bunch of other people were standing in a circle. They had white robes on, they're holding hands, they're facing inward. And the light in the room was pulsing at the same rate as this light up above. Now, and he freaked out and he went and he met the girl afterwards and never said anything. She never said anything, and sometime later, the family moved out. But I was thinking about this every once in a while, and I kind of said, well, he might have been dreaming of something. But have you ever heard of anything actually like this happening? Because it sounds like it fits in a little bit with what you're...
No, not personally. I've never had any people tell me about such experiences, but I wouldn't put it past him or anyone to know people who actually may be ETs on Earth, or who are living on Earth as humans, but they are actually ETs. And
well, he said this wasn't like a saucer. It was just like a little ball of light, but it was just pulsing, and the light in the room was pulsing.
I'm sure.
Right? So he thinks something was going on, and he told. I didn't see this. He told me this, and this is back he told me this about 1970. So, we're talking about a ways back. But according to him, because this girl always used to talk about she was from somewhere else, somewhere far away. So,
I mean, has anyone ever met anybody who said that in their life experience? I mean, I haven't. But the only thing I've experienced is that my guides would tell people that they've had other lifetimes on other planets, or their planet of origin was from another star system, and or they are here as humans in this lifetime as ambassadors from a specific star system to kind of report back in the dream state with the experience on the Earth plane. Very interesting, so.
There is also the fact that many human beings whose origins are extraterrestrial, they come from planetary systems where there are war and conflict. So there's ambassadors that incarnate into the flesh. So maybe my wife was from one planet and I'm from another planet, and we were warring, yet we come together under the guise of a human being, forgetting most of those issues. But there's a kind of diplomacy that goes on very often on the Earth plane. This planet is a free will planet, which is very unusual. We have free will, believe it or not, and it makes it a unique planet for these kinds of meetings.
How much time do we have?
I have about 10 to 9, and is that correct?
8:42.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a few more minutes.
5 minutes, and then, because we should be out by 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, John. Just to kind of summarize then, is to say that through my channeling experiences and my experiences as a metaphysical healer and teacher and guide, I've come across many instances of humans who have ET connections, who are ETs, formerly ETs, and are presently human, and that, it's just part of the great plethora of intelligences that exist on this planet from all levels, including the animal level, the angel level, the guide level, the master teacher level, and that the Earth plane itself is supposed to be this kind of great experimental station where all these levels of consciousness can interact in a free will fashion. That is very rare, apparently, in the solar system or galaxy. That it's not as free will. Freewheeling is more like it. As you can see, like from Donald Trump. That anything goes, and so anything does go. But the angels are here and the guides are here to help us stay kind of centered within this insanity, so that we know what we want, we know what our values are. We want a sane world, a more compassionate world, a more caring world, and that's in part due to what the fourth and fifth dimensional frequencies that are also coming into the planet as well, are triggering within us that kind of response to be more loving, be more caring. Yes, indeed.
So basically what you're saying is that the picture to you, or relayed to you, is that the Earth is sort of like the grand central station
Yes.
on planets.
Yeah, and there's so many different dramas going on that you've read about, of different ET federations and warring factions that use the Earth plane as a place to kind of work out their issues and so on and so forth. The reptilians and the Dracos and all that. That's all part of the mix, but you don't have to focus on it necessarily. You can say that exists, but I want to focus on the angels, or I want to focus on my guides, or I want to focus on the environment. It's all good. It's all whatever you want to focus on, really. Yeah.
You might want to mention your table.
Oh, okay.
You have to go now.
All right, great. Okay. In case you're interested, you can look at all the beings that I channeled, and there's examples of some of the channelings I have here on CD. If you care to purchase them, they're like $10 tonight, and it all goes for a good cause. And thank you very much for letting me share myself to you this evening.
Thank you.